Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, y'all. Hey, like my poster? Um, yeah. Anyways, this one is called The Great Unmasking. And what I am going to do with this one is I'm oops, that's not the right one. 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 There it is. Let's share that. Let me make sure. Yep, I got it sharing correctly. Now I gotta figure out how to get back to where I'm reading from. Okay, right here. The Great Unmasking, exposing the media's role in shielding corruption. The quiet victories no one reports, and the coming reckoning at the top by Sammy Squale. There's nothing that will ever be done to Jake Tapper for calling an obvious black man a white man, or any of the others in the mainstream media who knowingly report false information. Because in 2012, they gutted all the punishments, fines, and accountability for news reporting when they modernized the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948 and 2012. When they did this, they stripped away every tool we could ever have to hold reporters or networks accountable for deliberately pushing false stories, as long as they don't yell fire in a crowded theater or claim there's an active war that doesn't exist. They can pretty much say whatever the heck they want with zero consequences. Look how long they ran with the very fine people on both sides hoax, taking President Trump's own words completely out of context to make it sound like he was praising white supremacists when he was actually condemning them. Now the mainstream media has gotten so bold, they're straight up splicing video clips together, chopping sentences up, and stitching audio together to make it appear Trump said things that never came out of his mouth. The Canadian Prime Minister even ran a commercial made during the World Series that ripped an old President Reagan clip completely out of context without permission from the Reagan Presidential Library, nonetheless, to pretend that President Reagan was against tariffs right before the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, is set to hear arguments on presidential authority on using tariffs. Democrats are getting caught in their crimes and exposed almost daily now. Swalwell keeps going on camera and digging his own grave deeper every time he opens his big mouth. It's equal parts hilarious and pathetic to watch. I really hope some of the big MAGA voices on social media will finally calm down with the Bondi and Patel's heads on pikes talk. They act like those two should have started mass arrests on day one. But they forget that Bondi and Patel walked into an absolute cesspool that had been run by the deep state for decades. First, they have to figure out just how rotten their departments are, separate the patriots from the traitors, locate evidence the deep state hid from everybody that we all know about or destroyed, and triple check every single document to make sure it's not some deep state plant put in there by the deep state to have the case tossed out. Anyways, if Bondi ever brought one fake piece of evidence into court, the case gets tossed and the internet explodes, demanding she be fired. They've already done massive house cleaning, and things will only get tighter as they keep feeding selective leaks in order to find out who they can and can't trust. If it hits the news in 5 minutes, they know exactly who can't be trusted. In other words, they're selectively leaking stories to people. And if these stories make it into the mainstream media, then we know who the leaker is, basically, is what that is. We're already seeing progress. Huge FBI busts on child trafficking rings. Thousands of innocent children rescued. They were our main concern, right? I mean, when we all got into this, our biggest number one main concern was saving the children, correct? Sometimes hundreds in a single raid are saved, yet the mainstream media never utters a word about this. Major terror plots have been stopped cold, like the one planned for Halloween. Cartel cigarette boats that cost 50 grand apiece, full of drugs, are getting blown out of the water, and on and on and on. Good news, the mainstream media just refuses to report on, so it's left up to us, the citizen journalists, to keep the people informed. The good news is I have noticed that some mainstream media reporters look completely exhausted and fed up with having to ask the dumbest, most loaded questions imaginable, only to get destroyed in real time when the person they're interviewing answers with basic facts. Lately, I've noticed more of them starting to ask the one question that liars hate the most to hear: how? The look on a politician's face when that lands is priceless. When a reporter asks the person they are interviewing, how will this action by President Trump kill millions of Americans? Or, like with the seditious six, when asked what orders President Trump had issued that were unlawful or unconstitutional, none of them could give a single example and tried to brush the commercial off as informing the members of the military about their rights they are all told and taught about during basic training. Then there are the guys like Stephen A. Smith who walk the tightrope, bashing men and women's locker rooms 1 minute, all while slipping in a cheap shot at President Trump the next minute so he can still get invited to the cocktail parties in Hollywood. In Minnesota, we've got massive fraud in Ilhan Omar's district. Hundreds of millions of U.S. tax dollars went missing. And when she's asked about it, she just smiles this huge ear-to-ear smile and blames COVID happened so fast. No guardrails. That grin on her face told me everything I needed to know. Her family probably pocketed a fortune. Just wait until the real truth comes out about her. Her father and mother comes out in the public light. She will be lucky if she is deported back to Somalia and not thrown under the prison. Her father was the man completely responsible for all the horrific humanitarian atrocities that were happening in the country. And her mother is a founding member of CARE. You know, we've cut off the deep state's piggy bank at USAID. We've slammed the borders shut and unleashed our military on the drug cartels. I love seeing those $1 million cigarette boats turned into fireworks. Next step, go after their U.S. banking networks and, in one coordinated strike, blow up every lab, every stash house, every truck fleet, every distribution hub they have. Arresting the kingpins never worked. Some lieutenant was always ready to step up and take the place within an hour of the arrest of the kingpin or the drug leader, the cartel leader. If we destroy their entire infrastructure, the way they make the drugs, the flow of drugs will stop. But then, of course, we'll have a whole new set of problems on our hands that we will need to address almost immediately, and be ready for which is the millions of functioning addicts that are going to be going through withdrawal symptoms. Somehow I wrote this wrong. Immediately ready for which is the millions of functioning and the heavy addicts who will go into withdrawal symptoms, which are horrific. Those people are going to need real help getting clean. We can't just leave them suffering at home or in the streets. Now, I know about fentanyl. Those of y'all who know me know I destroyed my lumbar spine. They had me on that 100 microgram fentanyl patch, transdermal patch that delivered fentanyl through your skin over a 24-hour or a 72-hour period. Well, I was on that 100 microgram patch. And even with a doctor's help, weaning me slowly off of that drug, it was horrific. I can just imagine what these people are going to be going through cold turkey without the help of a doctor. Our public education system has been dumbed down for multiple generations now, to the point that your average high school graduate today can barely read, write, or do math on a fifth grade level. They take out huge college loans thinking they're prepared. They show up for college classes only to realize they're lost. Party the money away, drop out, and spend the rest of their lives in debt paying back their student loans, living in mom's basement, playing video games, and eating Hot Pockets. Now everyone is losing their minds over President Trump's support for the H-1B visa program. Let's step back 1 second and look at this logically. Our public education system has been dumbed down so much for several generations now that your average high school grad can barely read, write, or do math on a fifth grade level, yet we want these people to fill the high-tech jobs that are about to open up in the high-tech industry and demand well-educated employees to work in these high-tech industries. This is why we still need the H-1B visa program, so we can bring in people from countries that produce well-educated high school equivalent people to work in these high-tech jobs. The best thing about this problem is that it can be solved in one generation of properly educated U.S. citizens. Then the need for the H-1B visa program will shrink to virtually to just very specialized jobs. We've been in this fight since the day Donald Trump and Melania rode down the golden escalator. I didn't even like or watch The Apprentice, but when I heard the announcement Trump was running for president, I yelled, heck yeah, this country needs a businessman running it. Then came election night in 2016. All the networks had Hillary at 99% to win. Then the numbers kept dropping and dropping until Trump took the lead. Then a big lead, then a massive lead, and the left completely melted down. Oh, it was so glorious to watch. All the reporters on the mainstream media and online lose their minds when Trump started winning state after state. We were treated to all the fake outrage. Madonna threatening to blow up the White House. Johnny Depp asking when was the last time an actor assassinated a president. Death threats everywhere. Yet when Obama won, we didn't riot. We didn't threaten lives. We didn't call everything racist. It's funny how racism suddenly came roaring back the day Obama took office. and has been the go-to shield ever since. Point out criminal behavior by a black Democrat with video evidence, and you're a racist. Now they're floating, charging President Trump with murder because the Navy smoked two drug runners who had righted their boat, were reloading the drugs and calling for backup, not waiting for help like the mainstream media claimed. Every Democrat who came out of the classified briefing admitting a second strike was completely justified. The admiral in charge had a JAG officer there advising him about the legalities of all their actions to ensure no laws were broken and that no court order Hegseth was supposed to have given was never given. That was another lie debunked in under an hour. Hang in there just a little bit longer. Once the new year arrives, then President Trump's executive orders kick in. Then life is going to improve fast. You can feel we're close to the end. The Dems and mainstream media are getting caught and humiliated in real time, sometimes within minutes of posting or reporting their garbage. The tide has turned in our favor, so let's not screw this up now by infighting among ourselves. Right now, the left has us separated in our own personal outrage box instead of all of us being in the same box, shouting the same thing in one loud voice and demanding accountability. Now, we are too busy getting upset because some person we want to see arrested has not been arrested yet. Things are happening really fast now, and will only get faster when all these low-hanging fruit from the poisonous tree start flipping on their bosses, and then their bosses get arrested, and they flip on their bosses until we finally reach the top of the poisonous tree in Washington, D.C. Then we will have won our great Republic of States back, and we all will be able to kick back and enjoy life for a change without any worry about a corrupted government. And that's it for this one. Please feel free to comment. Let me know what you think. Gonna get started on the next one.